Ben.
Hey.
So you've come out against the rioters in Charlottesville and all their violence and bigotry.
Yep.
The leaders of the Charlottesville rally were empowered by the rhetoric and agenda of Donald Trump and a lot of his associates as they've come out in the Vice documentary and claimed. You've not only said controversial things, but you've had a couple of attacks against the trans community, transphobic attacks, even your call for the transfer of Palestinians, which I don't know if you've redacted that.
Yeah, I redacted that like 9 years ago.
I just wanted to make sure. I wanted to ask you. No, I'm just learning about Ben.
No, really, that's fine. That's fine.
But even with that, do you feel that a lot of your speech could incite the same kind of violence?
I mean, you heard my speech tonight. Do you feel that my speech could incite violence?
Well, I'm asking, do you feel that the fact that with your disagreement, you're inherently, through the institutions that have provided these definitions, discriminating against trans community?
And I'm saying,
thus encouraging other people to follow.
So
I know
here's
it's a long question, but I had to encapsulate a lot of things.
So here's what I'm saying. I disagree with either their definition is wrong or it's overly broad in its application.
Okay.
So if the idea is that if I say a man is a man and a woman is a woman is inherently transphobic, that's not discrimination, that's disagreement. If they say that's discrimination, they're overly applying their own label.
I think when you say like they're mentally ill, like that gives off
I have said, and I will continue to maintain, that gender dysphoria or gender identity disorder, whichever DSM you choose to use, is a mental illness. That is, and again, God forbid that it should be said with any animus, because this is not said with animus. When people are suffering, these are clearly folks who are suffering. When people are suffering, you shouldn't be saying stuff with animus. I'm not saying that as a gotcha to people who are transgender. The point that I'm making is that when a society begins treating folks who have mental illness as though they are representing an objective reality, they are doing no service to the people who actually suffer from a mental illness. My grandfather suffered from schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia. He was institutionalized. If the doctors had said to him, Nate, you're fine. We believe that the radio is actually talking to you. That is not a service to him. That would have been terrible for him. Right? They put him in an institution. They gave him lithium, and it helped. Now, I'm not saying there's even a great solution for folks who have gender identity disorder or gender dysphoria, because the solutions that I've seen, including transgender surgery, are not intensely effective from all the studies that I've seen. It's a tragic, tragic situation. But the solution is not to redefine as a society what sex means along anti-biological lines. As far as the homophobia point, it's my own religious belief about the sinful nature of particular people's behavior should have no impact on how you act in a free country or how you think. It's a free country. Do what the hell you want. Right? There's religious ben, which is what I think is sinful, which is Jews who violate Sabbath, right? Jews who eat shellfish. Right? There's a lot of things that we think are sinful in Judaism. Right? And then there's the stuff where do what you want because it's a free country. I think people do a lot of sinful stuff all the time, and I'm not calling them on it. Right? I think the people who are living together outside of marriage are sinning according to my traditional religious beliefs. It's a free country. Do what you want. So when people say homophobia, I think what they are doing is saying you disagree with me. I've never called for violence, and not only that, I'm in favor of legalization of same-sex marriage in the sense I want the government completely out of marriage, right? I don't want the government in the marriage business at all.
Because they believe in our business.
Good.
That has nothing to do with politics.
That's great, and you think the government is in the business of regulating business. So if the government is in the business of regulating business, what would be the problem with the government telling Buddy Roemer he is not allowed to invest in your business?
No, those are two different issues. No problem. No, one thing is to say, hey, let's set reasonable limitations on what can happen around elections, which is, again, what most developed Western countries do. So, and they have different versions of that rule. There's ads you can run, you can't run ads within a certain period of time. You have public financing versus private financing. Those are rules around an election. That is a completely different issue than the government saying randomly you can and you can't invest in businesses. Why? So you're conflating those two issues that have nothing to do with one another.
Why?
So let's just
what does why mean?
Because it's
those
a,
are
because
two, hey, why, you know, you believe in education, so why don't you believe in healthcare?
Because it's a free country, and I get to spend my money wherever I damn well please.
All right. So as we're coming to the close, you'll be the last word on this.
Final thing here on this, okay? Final question on this. So Young Turks is super successful. We have 80 million uniques. It's wonderful. Do you think Bernie Sanders would care more if you gave him $10,000 or if you dedicated your entire network to kissing his ass for an election cycle?
You made the argument that the gender cape the gender pay gap is a myth.
Yes.
And one of the main reasons that this is the case is because that female STEM education is at a lower level than it is for men. Females are continually discouraged to not go into STEM fields at a rate that's like much lower than men are. So I was wondering what you feel about this argument, and like, you know, do you like think it should be remedied, or like nothing?
Well, I
should be
mean,
done?
I think that it's a free country. You can choose what profession to go into. If the idea is that the pay gap is largely due to profession choice, that's obviously true. If you look at a lot of dangerous professions, firemen, people who work on oil rigs, it tends to be men because men want to go into those professions. It's also true that men tend to spend more hours in the workplace. It's also true that women tend to take more time off with babies. That's not a bad thing, by the way. It's not a rip on women. It's always bewildering to me when feminists are like, it's terrible that women take time off to be with their babies. Why? I think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, completely agree. But I think there is a societal discouragement for women to go into these particular fields. I was wondering if, like, you as like a problem.
I don't see a ton of evidence that there's societal disparagement of women going into being a firefighter. What I actually see is that there's an affirmative action program in many of these cases for women going into things like firefighting, because there's now an affirmative attempt to get women into these fields.
I was referring to STEM fields like science, technology.
So the STEM. Okay, so James Damore has an interesting memo that got him fired from Google on this. But it is certainly true that when you look at, for example, what women major in college, the number of women who major in STEM studies, which has nothing to do with getting a job and paying, women major in humanities much more than men do. Men are just interested in this stuff more. That's not a terrible thing. I don't see why that.
Yeah, but I mean, like, there's societal influence that occurs even before the college level, right? I mean,
I don't know that there are a lot of people saying to a 7th grade girl who's good at math, you need to stop that and go read some poetry.
So I'm Robert. I'm one of the coastal liberals, as you'd say. I've been watching you for years now, and I read your book on the arguments to fight against people like me, and I feel bad because, like, for the most part, the people who have been arguing against you aren't nearly as elegant or eloquent as they should be. But I'd just like to ask. So one of your points you very strongly make is that it's unfair for people like me to label you as like a racist or a bigot, just as like a smear tactic. But have you ever acknowledged that, like, maybe it's not a smear tactic, but it's based on things you've said? So, like, for example, like on the Israel-Palestine conflict, you called the Arabs. Yeah, you already know what I'm going to say. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to presume. Yeah. So, like, you say.
I've written several full columns about it.
Yeah.
I've talked about how people don't read the follow-up tweets. I wrote a column.
I've read some of the tweets, and the tweets were just as bad. I mean, you say a lot of things that are just like racist, right? But then if I call you a racist, then you defend it by saying, like, I didn't read enough, right? So what I was going to say before.
So give me give me my racist tweets in context.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, you came prepared. So go do it.
So you said the Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage. This is not a difficult. Well, you before that said Israelis like to build.
Did you? Okay, now the follow-ups, because you said the follow-ups didn't make it any better.
Well, this is separate things that you said.
No. I want
bad.
the follow-ups to that one though.
Follow-ups to that specific.
Would you like
tweet?
me to get them? I'll get them for you.
If you have them, sure. But in the meantime, do you mind if while you do that?
What was that?
Do you mind if I continue while you do that?
Well, I'd like to take them one by one. So
sure.
Okay. Why don't we do this? Why don't we delay that one until the end while I look this up from the podium in front of 600 people?
You've also said. Okay. I'll wait. So on that particular issue, you've also said that the Arab-Palestine populace is, by and large, constitutes the most evil population on the face of the planet. Before, you said that you've never brought up religion when it comes to abortion, but I don't think that you've avoided religion when it comes to the Israeli conflict, and I don't know that you can be completely unbiased in the issue, given that
Well, I can be unbiased on the subject that the Palestinians have elected 3 terrorist governments to form a unity government with the stated goal of the destruction of the state of Israel and the murder of all Jews in the area. So that I can be relatively unbiased on. As far as the idea that the Palestinian population. As far as the idea that the Palestinian population is more evil than other populations, they certainly hold more evil views than other populations by poll statistics, by how many Palestinians approve of terror attacks, by how many Palestinians voted for an actual terror group, Hamas, and another actual terror group, Palestinian Authority, and another actual terror group, the Islamic Jihad. Okay, so I don't think that all views are equal, and I don't think that people who hold evil views are necessarily good. I mean, I'm sorry if the polls don't support the idea that everyone is equally wonderful, but everyone is not equally wonderful. Okay, I'm looking up these statements now, so if you'd like to give me a second.
But you've continued, you deny secular Zionism, and you...
Quote, okay, so here, I've got them in front of me. Okay, so I'll finish that one, then we can move. Okay, ready? There are many, many Christian and Muslim Arabs who are wonderful people, just not the ones who oppose Israel in the Israel-Arab conflict. That would be the response within the same Twitter thread. Okay, in the post Israelis versus Arabs, I wrote about Arabs who take part in the Israeli-Arab conflict, as anyone who can read knows. Hashtag dumbasses. Okay, quote, I think it has much more to do with the fact that the Palestinian leadership supported by the Palestinian population uses millions for terror. I should have been more specific. Arabs who actively seek Israel's destruction. Those would be the follow-up tweets. Does that sound like genocidal mania to you, or does it sound like I'm specifically labeling a group of people who have called for Israel's destruction?
I like to point out that you're not a racist, but they're dumbasses, and you're allowed to insult them.
Yes, because if someone calls me a racist without evidence, they are definitionally a dumbass.
What is genocide? Wait.
I agree with you that, like, biologically a man is a man and a woman is a woman. I was just wondering what you see the detriment of society, like why we can't, like, let a transgender, like, woman be called she or something.
Because it is a lie. Too many young Americans don't know anything about capitalism. They don't know why it's good. They think socialism is good. There's a Harvard Institute of Politics poll in spring 2016, and it found that Bernie Sanders, that loon bag, was the only major candidate with a net positive rating among 18 to 29-year-olds. 54% viewed him favorably, compared with just 31% who viewed him unfavorably. And when folks say things like, believe all women, I have a question, why? Really, why? Because I am inclined to believe stories of sexual abuse. I really am. I came out against President Trump when he was running. I didn't vote for him. I came out against Roy Moore, and I actively told people not to vote for Roy Moore in Alabama because there was a lot of corroborating evidence and a bunch of various accounts. Okay, but when folks say believe all women, you can't believe all women any more than you can believe all men or believe any other group of people. And to suggest that women are inherently more believable than men is sexist. To say that men don't deserve the same due process as women is sexist. To suggest that Brett Kavanaugh, because he is white and privileged, does not deserve the same presumption of innocence or due process as someone else is racism and sexism. This is absurd. Okay, Brett Kavanaugh... All of this, the white privilege, the microaggressions, this provides the impetus for the safe space. The vaunted safe space, which I know I have violated multiple times tonight. And I gotta tell you, I don't give two hoots in hell. The system is so corrupt, it's so inescapable, and you've made it so corrupt and so inescapable to yourself that you need a safe space. Everybody needs to be put outside the safe space, and reality must not intrude. The South Park song about safe spaces is exactly what these people think. And let me tell you something about safe spaces. There's only one group of people who want safe spaces that are race-specific. There's only one group of people that want safe spaces so that they never have to hear from anybody of a different ideology or political persuasion. Those people are called fascists. Okay, and you've got a bunch of fascists, damn fascists on this campus, who are trying to shut down political debate and trying to cloister themselves in this little cocoon of stupidity so they don't have to debate anyone or think about issues outside their kin so that they can feel comfortable. Guess what? Life isn't about feeling comfortable. Life is about bettering yourself. Get off your ass, you stupid pansies.